I'm not crying anymore, oh, because I praise the Lord. I've been laughing all day long because of my Lord. Depression doesn't faze me anymore. Anxiety is gone because of my Lord. It's time.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lost Light and Laughter, an uplifting show about laughter after tragedy. I'm your host, Michelle A. If you're ready for some inspiration and laughter in your life, you've tuned in to the right show.
It's time to show love, everybody. Show love one time. Feel me strong enough to fight my battles. I know he'll never give me more than I can handle. My Lord, my King, the one that I do love.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle A. here. Welcome back to Lost Light and Laughter. It's a show about laughter after tragedy. I have a special guest with me today. She is my publisher, okay? My great friend, my confidant, like my girl, okay? Simply Mena's on here. Mena, come on in and introduce yourself.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Michelle. Hey, everybody. I am Simply Mena, and I am a minister, a mom, a life coach, a publisher, a jack of all trades, as my daddy used to say. And I'm just really happy to be here with Michelle, who is my girl. So I want to share my story with you guys. I want to laugh a little bit. We might even cry a little bit, but we're going to get over that and then just enjoy each other. So thanks, Michelle, for the invitation.
All right. Thank you. Well, you know, the name of the show is called Lost Light and Laughter. Mena, tell us about a significant loss in your life.
Oh, that one's easy. I lost a 16-year marriage. You know, I had been married before, but it had only lasted like a couple of years because we were too young. We weren't ready. But with this second marriage, I was ready. You know, and I put everything I had into that marriage. We had children together. You know, I thought we were building together. And then I found out he was building with the neighbor, with the vice president of the PTA, with some folks in the church, a couple of folks that he worked with. He was building with a lot of people. And he was building with them with my money.
Oh, no.
Because our house was in foreclosure and my car got repossessed. So, you know, I found out he had lost his job and he traveled for his job and he was still traveling like he was working, but he was, you know, going to meet ladies that he had met on the internet. He was using my money to do it. So I found myself in dire straits and we ended up divorcing. And then a few years later, I went and got with this guy that my daddy told me in high school I should avoid. So when I got with this guy, I went to my father and I said, Daddy, this is who I'm with now. And he said, you went all around the world, come back to the garbage can and pick this dude up.
Oh, no.
and it was another traumatic relationship that ended very badly. And I started thinking that there was something wrong with me. Here I was, you know, I had raised my kids. I had, you know, earned my degree. I had done all these things and I was single. And what I felt like is I was broken, that there was something inside me that was broken and that, you know, I would never, ever have a solid relationship because I wasn't worthy of it. There was something in me that was tainted. You know, I came out of a home that was filled with domestic abuse and I thought that maybe because of that, you know, something in me wasn't right. And I was attracting guys that would treat me the way my father treated my mother. I mean, he loved us as children, but he treated my mother the same way these guys had treated me.
Wow.
And I felt that there was something in me that drew that kind of attention, you know, that there was something broken inside of me. And you know, it made me shut myself off from the world. I started to eat. I gained over 110 pounds. Wow. I didn't want anyone to want me. You know, I figured if I got fat, people would leave me alone. Unfortunately, I'm incredibly sexy. So even fat,
she is. And she's so confident, so confident. Okay. It don't even matter. Size does not matter. She is hot.
I wasn't left alone. And so, you know, I it took a long time. Like, we've been divorced now 17 years, so a year longer than we were married. Mm-hmm. And it took all of that 17 years for me to get to a point where I believed that it wasn't just my fault. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I didn't contribute to the demise of my marriage. I'm saying that I had taken responsibility and ownership of all of it, mm-hmm. and not given him his part, And so I had to get to a point where I realized that we shared in the demise of our marriage. Mm-hmm. And more so, it was more of a 70-30 thing. And that 70 was his.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was planting everywhere. Okay.
He was. So that's my major. That was my loss.
Yeah, that's a major loss. I mean, being married for that long, you think, okay, we're on our way, that things are going to be solid. And then rumble, the ground falls out from underneath you. And you're like, how did I get here? Why am I here?
This joker had taken a second mortgage on our house with some chick that he let pretend to be me. How they did that, I don't know. Yeah. But when I looked at our finances, he had gotten credit cards in my name, maxed them out. I mean, it was just craziness. It was craziness.
That's the loss of so much. I mean, it's one thing you're losing your marriage, but now you've lost your marriage, you've lost your name, you've lost your identity and your credit. Man, that's a lot, okay? We know how long it takes to build up esteem and credit, okay? They don't play.
It was crazy.
Yes. So tell me, Mena, okay, you're going through this whole situation, and where is God in all of this? I mean, are you praying? Are you a believer at this time? Are you just winging some things? What's going on? What is your relationship like with God?
Okay, so it's crazy because this is what is going on. I had just been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Mm. And so the doctors had told me I was going to be in a wheelchair. Wow. And that, the type that I had was going to be progressive. So he had dipped because he's like, I didn't sign on for that. Mm. And here's the thing. From being a kid, I was always a minister. I was president of the missionary, and I did all the little, missionary things that you go and you speak at all these different events and all this other stuff. I always had some type of mission, even as a kid. So I had been running from that. I was like, I'm not equipped to be a minister, And so I kind of lived my life in a way to make myself where God couldn't use me, where I felt he couldn't use me. So, I had my oldest daughter out of wedlock. We got married because I was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, now he'll leave me alone. He won't keep calling me because I had a baby. I got pregnant and I wasn't married. Mm-hmm. Then I got divorced. And I was like, well, maybe he'll stop calling me now. Because, not only did I get pregnant and had to get married, now I divorced that dude. Mm-hmm. And then I married the second guy and got a divorce. Mm-hmm. And I was like, now I'm divorced twice. Stop calling me. Leave me alone, God. I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. I figured I had sullied myself enough that he would stop calling me, but he did.
That's right.
So then I got multiple sclerosis and I was in a wheelchair for about a year. And while I was in that chair, God said, are you listening yet? Because I've been trying to talk to you for several years and you not listening. You didn't even consult me when you married this dude, and I would have told you this is not a good idea. So sitting in the chair, I had to get kind of silent because I couldn't do all the things I had been doing so that I didn't hear his voice. So I had to get silent. And I was like, okay, what you want? What you want?
Yeah.
And he was like, you are going to have to share my word and share your experiences with my people. You didn't go through all of this stuff just to go through it. I know you think that, this was your free will and you did what you did, but you don't understand, that I put the stars in the sky. I allowed you to do what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And all of it was for my good. So I'm going to, utilize all of those things. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then, the next thing I knew, I had become a minister in my church. The next thing I knew, I was licensed and preaching and all of that. And it, and although for that time in my life, that's what I was headed. But then God made me silent again. And I was like, okay, I was getting all these accolades and everything. I was preaching all these services and everything. And I said, okay, God, I'm doing what you said do now. And he was like, yeah, but no, that's not it. And so he sat me down and I got quiet. And then it came to me, what I was supposed to do. I'm not meant to be in all these big venues and preaching, standard preaching. Mm-hmm. I'm meant to minister.
Yeah.
And he put a work in my heart to help people tell their testimonies, share their stories in a way that other people can receive it and utilize it to move forward and heal from their own trauma. So he gave me a book called Just Eat the Beans that I filled with my own hurt and trauma. And I wrote that book. It went bestseller the day it published.
Yeah.
Because it was transparent and it really told my story. It told how God pulled me through, and it's like, in life, you want to eat steak all the time, but there are going to be some times when all you got is beans.
Yeah.
And you can sit around wanting that steak and stay hungry, or you can humble yourself and eat those beans and get strong enough to go out there and get your steak.
Woo.
And so I wrote that book and God was like, now you're doing what I need you to do.
Yeah.
So he was always in the mix, he was always in the midst of everything that was going on. And he was just waiting for me to say, okay, what you want?
Yeah.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Do you want to learn more about the Bible and how it reveals God's plan for humanity? Do you want to discover the connections between the Old and New Testaments and how they form one cohesive story? If so, you should listen to Reasoning Through the Bible, a podcast that explores the scriptures verse by verse with clarity and insight. Join us every week as we dive into the historical context, theological implications, and answers to questions about each passage to see how they apply to our lives today. Don't miss this opportunity to grow your faith and understanding of God's Word. Subscribe to Reasoning Through the Bible.
Yeah. And I love your story because so many times when people feel like God is calling them, they immediately go to the platform of the church. They feel like they have to be out front. They have to be a minister or someone in the fivefold ministry. They have to have a title within the church. And I'm glad that you said he called you to help people give their testimony in written form. It's so different and it still matters. We get bogged down in the look or the appearance of what we think God wants, when really he was like, I need you to help people write books. I need you to help people tell their stories because I want to reach people. And yes, we're going to reach some people on the platform, but listen, Mena helped my book go to bestseller. You hear me? When I met Mena, I had a couple of pages, maybe a paragraph or two. I had nothing, but I had a whole lot of ideas. Okay. And Mena just came in and she relaxes you. Okay. It feels like you're having a conversation with a friend. And she tapped into areas that I had suppressed. I had genuinely suppressed and forgotten about. And she had these techniques that pulled all of that stuff out. And I'm like, that could only be from God. Okay. I talked to a whole lot of people. Okay. They weren't able to tap into that. But Mena did that. And I'm like, God is so merciful and he shows himself in so many ways to us. If we will just listen, like she said, she was sitting there and he was like, you gonna listen now? She was like, I guess. I ain't got much of a choice now.
I can't do that else. But let me tell you how he moved, though. The doctors, because the doctors couldn't understand it. I was in that chair. Yes, I was in that chair for about a year. You know, the chair that they told me I was relegated to for the rest of my life. But in about a year, I was on a walker. And about 6 months after that, I was on a cane. And maybe 6 months after that, I was on stilettos. So let me tell you about the move of God.
That's how he do it, y'all.
And them telling me that, oh, your MS is relapsing, remitting. It's not necessarily progressive. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not even claiming relapsing, remitting. We don't, get up here. And so when people tell me that it doesn't take all that, because I'm gonna tell you, I'm a very flamboyant person. I tell people I'm shy and demure, but it doesn't work. For some reason, they don't believe me. And so when people tell me it doesn't take all that, I say it takes all of that and more. And you have no idea what I've come from. You don't have any idea about the move of God in my life. I was sitting there in a chair trying to figure out who was going to take care of my kids, as this thing progressed, because I'd already lost a cousin to MS. And so I was like, I'm sitting here thinking about who's going to take care of my kids. And God said, you're going to take care of them. What you talking about?
That's right.
And I can honestly say now my kids are 29, 30, and 35, and I raised them every day of their lives. Sometimes I think I'm still raising them, but
Oh my goodness. She got a beautiful family, y'all. Very beautiful family. God has been good to her. So tell me, because we've been laughing through this. All right. So you go through all of this loss because it's really traumatic. Okay. Divorce sucks. All right. It's you having to start all over again, much less, build up credit and like friendships and relationships and like where we going to live now and how we're going to do this. How do I talk to the kids? Like you're in this place and then you're getting the news of, MS, like it's like bam, 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 hit after hit after hit. And I'm like, we know God is with us, but when do you laugh again? When do you smile again? When do you be like, I'm good. Thank you, Lord.
I'm going to tell you, it took a while. One, because I was very guarded. I would laugh and stuff with my kids, but as far as like outside of that, not really. My whole thing was I was grinding. I was trying to, make sure that they could do everything that they could have done had they had two parents.
Right.
They wanted to do cheerleading. They wanted to do band. They wanted to do acting classes. They wanted to do dancing classes. They wanted to go on vacations, all of these things. And so, I didn't want them to ever feel deprived, So I was busting my behind to try to make sure I could cover those things because he was not willing to cover. I mean, with the court and the judge was like, it's not his fault. You put them in all these extracurriculars. That's on you. And I'm like, okay, bet, got you, And so it took me a while to start focusing on my own healing. I was bitter. Yeah. I was mad. I can't even say I was bitter. I was mad as hell. I was mad.
Yeah.
And I felt some kind of way about having to pick up his slack and having to do it all. And I was mad at God. I'm like, God, dang, can I get a break, please? Some kind of miracle, what? Even though he had been performing miracles, because, I had come out of this whole MS thing. When you are still mired down in muck, it's hard to see that your legs are working.
Yeah.
And so it took a long time, actually, until my son went to college and I actually had the house to myself for just a few, just a few. And I started looking at myself and what I, had accomplished, outside of myself. But then I felt that inside I was still that same little girl that was broken, living in, rural North Carolina, wondering what the heck my daddy's doing, And I honestly began to seek help. First, I got therapy, and I also started cutting off dead weight. Yeah. I stopped hoping, because somewhere deep inside of me, I still hoped that my marriage would reconcile. even though he had gone on to marry 3 other women.
Wow.
You know, somewhere deep inside, he was going to recognize that I was the prize. And he was going to come back and he was going to beg for my forgiveness. And he was going to get down on his knees and lay prostrate before me and say, Mena, please take me back. You know, somewhere in me, I still held hope for that. And that hope was hurting.
Yeah.
You know, hope is supposed to make you feel good. That hope was hurtful because he consistently married other people. You know, he married, divorced, married, divorced, married, divorced. And I was like, why does he keep getting other people? I'm right here, you know, with his children. And so I had to get beyond that because that was making me even more bitter. Yeah. You know, and I couldn't formulate healthy relationships or even friendships until I got to the point where I said, you know what, this is over. And I need to let that be over. And I really prayed to God to take that away from me. Every prayer I prayed was, God, cleanse my spirit, cleanse my heart, cleanse my mind of these memories, cleanse my soul. Don't let me long for him. You know, let me be comfortable in my bed. And what I ended up, because I realized that even though we had been divorced for like, at that time, maybe 10 years, I was still sleeping on my side of the bed.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I was still sleeping on my side of the bed. So I did a deliberate thing. I put my pillow at the corner and I started to sleep diagonally. And when I started sleeping diagonally, that felt so good.
Freeing.
It felt so good. I mean, I just spread my arms, I spread my legs, and I was sleeping like a star, just like a starfish on the beach. And I mean, that was the best sleep.
Yeah.
I still do that. I still sleep diagonally in my bed now. But that liberated me, you know? And I said, okay, thank you, God, for that, you know? And then I cut my hair. Yeah. You know, a lot of people say when you cut your hair, you're getting rid of all, you know, the past. I cut my hair because, you know, I thought that having this beautiful crown of hair and all this stuff was going to make me look so great. He would never leave me. And I thought, you know what? This hair doesn't mean anything. Let me start over. So I cut my hair off. I mean, I had like no hair. My mother was like, are you going through some changes? Is there something you can talk to me about? Somebody you know? Because, you know, I had been a prissy girl. I'm a very prissy person. And so, you know, I'm the makeup and the hair and all of that. And she was like, is there something? Because I started going barefaced and I cut all my hair out. And she's like, is there something you need to share? And I was like, no, I'm just trying to find me again. And, you know, I had this beautiful honey blonde dye job and that wasn't me, you know, so I needed to start over and find me. And me didn't have, you know, drawn on lips and all this eyeshadow and mascara and honey blonde hair hanging around my shoulders. Me didn't have that. Right. So me had to have a clean face and a bald head for a minute. So I could figure out I didn't even know what my natural hair color was anymore. Wow. I really didn't. I had forgotten. I had been coloring my hair so many different colors for so many years. Yeah. But I didn't even know what my natural color was. It turned out to be like a sable brown and I didn't like it. So, you know, I got colored again. But, you know, at least I knew. At least I knew. For
yourself, yes.
I knew. And so, you know, in finding these little pieces of me, like I didn't even know what kind of eggs I liked. Yeah. You know, because I made poached eggs for this one and scrambled eggs for that one and boiled eggs for that one. So one day I made all these freaking eggs, all these different ways. And I sat down at the table and I had a bite from each one to kind of figure out what kind of eggs I liked.
That's right. Yes.
And I said, oh, I like scrambled soft with cheese. Now I know. And I was so happy that I knew what kind of eggs I liked. Yeah. I didn't know what my favorite color was anymore because I would dress for everybody else. Yeah. So I went into my closet and, you know, just touch things to see how I felt when I touched the color. And when I touched red, let me tell you something in my spirit leaped. And I was like, oh, my favorite color is red. Let me get some more of this. And I just got to know me again. And that's when the laughter started. Yes. So a few years later, I decided to start dating. And I dated a couple of guys that was like really crazy. And I said, is this what's out here now? Yeah. You know, because here I am now, I'm 50. I was 50. And I said, you know, this is what's here. Okay. So I decided to write a book about it. And I wrote the Chronicles of Dating Over 50. And everybody thought, oh, well, it's only about dating if you're over 50. It had nothing to do with dating over 50 as far as age. It was 50 dates, 50 guys, in 50 days. And so I had dated about 53 guys. So that was over 50.
Yeah.
And each guy got one date. That's it. I told them at the end of the date that what I was doing. So, if it was a good date, I would say, hey, after I'm finished with the book, maybe we can see each other again, but not until the book is done. It was a bad date. It was like,
deuces.
I'm getting ready to write about you, and it turned out to be the most hilarious thing. So much so that when my mother read it, she was like, the book was so funny, but I tell you, I was like, this was my child that went through all of this. It would have been so much funnier if it was somebody else's child.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And so after that, I really came into me again, and I found myself just laughing. And then I was able to look back at my marriage and pick out the good stuff. And in doing so, here we are years later, and me and my ex-husband are good friends.
Wow. Who would have thought,
Right. We just celebrated our daughter's wedding, and we were on the dance floor cutting up, and he didn't trigger me anymore. I find that I can see him with our grandkids, and I'm not jealous that he gets to be there, even though he wasn't there, because that was something that used to trigger me.
Yeah.
And so now I can smile when I see him, being Papo and, doing for the grandkids and being present in the family things. And, I can look back and find the things that brought us together and the things that we shared that were great, like the birth of our children and our vacations and things like that. And I find that I remember the bad stuff a lot less.
That's good.
And I only remember it when I try to think about it.
Yeah. That's good.
And so God has said, why are you trying? Let it go.
Yeah.
And so now I can enjoy those times. I can look at him and be like, yo, you crazy, but you ain't gonna never be my man again. I'm gonna tell you right now. Let's just make this clear. We can be friends, but you can't be my man. And we can laugh at that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go from being 1 to being 6.
Right.
So that's where we are.
He went all around the world trying to look for you again. He couldn't find.
Searched all over.
Yes.
Couldn't find nobody.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This is so much fun. All right. So listen, we've heard about all of Mena's losses. She's had a lot. Goodness, like marriage, identity, credit. And I'm telling you, I keep saying credit because that's a big deal. People don't understand when somebody jacking credit up. Okay, that's a big deal. Okay, that's a lot of work. Okay. The loss of her dream life, like what it was supposed to look like. She had a lot of losses. And then even the loss of, when it was a temporary loss, when you were in that wheelchair, all of those losses. And then we see how God just comes in and he's so merciful where, and listening to her tell her story, I didn't hear any condemnation from God. I didn't hear him making her feel terrible about herself. He was like, you gonna listen now? And he came and he just spoke to her and he walked her through that whole thing. And it wasn't an overnight process. And that's another thing that I want people to understand about the show. Like when you hear people speak, nothing is an overnight thing. There's no snap of the finger and then all your pain's gone. Like Mena talks about the process from being in a wheelchair to a walker to a cane to being in stilettos, It was a process, but that's how our life is. Okay. And so if there's anybody here that's listening to this story that have gone through an extreme loss like Mena has, okay, I suggest you start making some moves. Mena helps people put their trauma and their pain in writing. And I know there's a lot of people that's been listening to this podcast and they're like, I've been wanting to write a book. I've been thinking about writing a book and they don't even know where to start. Start with Mena. Okay. Start with Mena. She'll give you the roadmap. Okay. She's going to lay that thing out and she's going to create a book with you that you're really going to be proud about. And your family's going to be proud to read as well, too. And you're going to be an Amazon bestseller like your friend here. Okay? So start with Simply Mena. All right? So listen, I want to thank you, Mena, for coming on Lost, Light, and Laughter. Do you have any words, any last remarks that you want to share with the audience? Tell them where they can find you. Okay, because I know they want to write a book. I know. Tell them.
So the name of the company is Create Your Reality Publishing. You can find me on Instagram at Simply Mena, or you can email me at CRE, 8, your reality, capital T, at gmail.com. But the best way to find me is on Instagram. So just look for Simply Mena and send me a message. I'll get right back to you.
That's right. All right. This concludes our episode of Lost, Light, and Laughter. Hey, write about it. That's how I'm leaving you today. Write about it.
Everybody show love one time. It's time to give praise. Everybody give praise one time. Yeah. It's time to show love. Everybody show love one time.